Okay, so in this video I'm going to introduce the idea of how consonants work in the IPA, and then in the next videos we'll go through them a bit at a time. All right, so let's see. So I'm going to be swapping between you getting to look at me and seeing the slides. So here's the first slide, and I'm just going to make that full screen a bit tidier. Okay. So remember that all languages divide their sounds into consonants and vowels. And the main difference is that every consonant has somewhere in the vocal tract a place that it's constricted or closed off. It's slowing down or blocking the airflow. And every vowel leaves the vocal tract unblocked. The air flows freely through the mouth. Okay, so here is the consonant chart. Now, this isn't exactly the full IPA consonant chart. This is just the consonants that we're going to be looking at. These are the ones that we find in English, and some of these you'll find across most indigenous languages that we're going to be working with, okay? The first thing I want to point out or describe is how the chart is organized. So along the top, we have some terms that we're already familiar with. The lips, the teeth, the alveolar ridge that we learned about in the anatomy video, and so on. So phoneticians call these the places of articulation. Each of these is a place of articulation. And for each consonant that you make, its place of articulation is where the vocal tract is constricted. For example, the P, the P sound in puppy, it's pronounced with the lips closed. So that's what makes it, puts it in this column with the lips, right? The full IPA chart has slightly different labels for these columns, but the idea is the same. And as I've said before, I'm not going to fuss over the narrow technical terms in this course. I think it'd be a bit silly to focus too much on that. Along the left edge, we see some other terms, and some of these are new to you in linguistics, like, well, you know the word stop, but here we're using stop in a different way. Fricative and glide, these are going to be new sounds. And so these are all what we call manners of articulation. They talk about how the constriction is made. So very quickly, a stop is made by completely closing off the vocal tract at the place of articulation. Right, so P, right, you're completely blocking the air while you're making that P, or K. A fricative is made by mostly closing the vocal tract but allowing some air to pass through noisily, like the sh sound in shush, right? I'm using the terms R sound and L sound in place of fancier terms like rhotic and lateral. Some languages have more than one R sound and more than one L sound. In English, there's only one of each. In some indigenous languages, there's more than one, so we can get to that as we need to. And a glide, that's the last category here, is made by just barely narrowing the vocal tract. So the name glide comes from how the sound kind of glides into a vowel or out of a vowel, like the y sound in yellow or the w sound in wall. And the last thing I want to point out here, you notice the W shows up. I'll flip back to the screen. W shows up in two places in this chart, right? It's over here under lips and it's over here under soft palate. And that's because the w, there's actually two things happening. One is what you see the lips coming together, and the other is the back of the tongue kind of creeps up towards the soft palate. This is what we call a double articulated sound, where there's things happening in two places at once. We're not going to have to worry too much about that for now, but it is worth knowing that these things can happen. I know there are indigenous languages that make things really interesting for us. The last thing I want to point out in this chart is that some of the sounds are paired. So, for example, you see F and V. They're both fricatives. So they're both in the fricative row, and they're both produced at the lips. Right? F and V are both made by putting the lower lip against the upper teeth. When you see two sounds in the same box, the one on the left is voiceless, and the one on the right is voiced. So if I say f, there's, I'm going to go to video so you can see what I'm doing. If I say f and hold my fingers here by my voice box, I don't feel any vibration. But if I go v, I feel the vibration, and I can switch between them. I can go f, know this looks really goofy, so you don't have to do that with your video on. But what I feel as I go between them is I can feel that vibration turning on and off. So when you see two sounds paired in the same spot in a chart like this, that's what's going on. The one on the left is voiceless, the one on the right is voiced. And when you see a sound on its own, like the M or the R or the Y, the Y sound, that's just a voiced sound. Okay, so that's all for the consonant setup video. So what I want you to remember is that for every consonant, there are 3 facts about it, and you can read those facts out of where that consonant is in your IPA chart. You can read the place of articulation, the manner of articulation, and the voicing of that consonant. And in the videos that follow, we're going to go through these consonants that you just saw one by one in 4 groups, largely based on we'll group the places of articulation into 4 groups. Okay, so that's all for this video. See you in the next one.